Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and it is the thick of enrollment season. We're featuring a lot of enrollment guide blog posts on sachartermoms.com and on our social media at sachartermoms. Today, we're featuring Basis Texas Charter Schools, which is an outstanding charter school network. Like, we'll talk about their rankings and the quality of the education they provide their students. And so to learn more about Basis, we have two special guests. So Ken Tyrrell is the Vice President of School Operations at Basis Ed Texas. And then below me on the screen is David King, and he is the Associate Vice President of Academics for Basis Ed Texas. So Ken and David, thank you for joining me on Charter Moms Chats.
Thanks, Egan. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So, Basis Texas, it's been around since 2013, right? So hopefully people have heard about it by now, but just in case they haven't, can y'all talk about what is the mission and vision of Basis Charter Schools?
Well, the mission is really to be the number one school district in the region, and certainly to have the number one schools in the region, which is something we've accomplished in the last few years. I was certainly proud to be the head of school at Chavano when those first initial rankings came out after many years of growing the high school. And so we've always been excited to be at the top, to have the healthy competition between health careers and some of the other magnet schools. Of course, the difference between a public charter like Basis, and a magnet school is that we don't choose our students, right? We take any student that wants to come to our campus, and we don't have any kind of entrance requirements or entrance exams or anything like that, unlike the magnets like health careers. So for us, it's about educating students. It's about turning any student that comes through our door into really fantastic students, really lifelong learners, to ensure that they are incredibly successful during middle school and high school. We're really elementary, middle, and high school. But beyond that, when they go to college, we want them to be successful. We want them to graduate early or on time. We want them to then go on to graduate school and be very successful in graduate school, and then into whatever career choice that they've made. And as we've tracked our graduates over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, we've really seen how much they've excelled. When we love to hear them come back and tell us about what a great foundation Basis provided. So that's really our mission. And our vision is really founded around our core values, which are nerds are cool, right? So we want this to be a place where it's fun to learn, where learning is the most important thing, where it's okay to ask a lot of really geeky questions and to pursue your interests through all kinds of different clubs and activities. That school should be hard, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but we do expect our students to work hard. We expect our parents to work hard in supporting their students. Certainly our teachers and our leaders at the schools work hard. Excellent outcomes require expert teachers, and that's really one of our keys to success, is hiring subject experts who are really passionate about their subjects, and that we're responsible across the entire network for our academic achievement. That's another core value. And finally, that students are leaders in their own education rather than spectators. And so we really want them, starting in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, to learn how to be advocates for themselves, to learn how to have conversations with their teachers and the leaders on campus about what they need, what they want, what they're learning, to be able to go home and be the center of the conversation with their parents about what happened in school that day, and to be the primary messenger between the teacher and the family, and then back again. And so that's really what our mission and our goals are really all about.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's a really good summary, because it's sparking a lot of things in my mind, right? You're talking about like students having that ownership, and I think about like, the CJ, like the Communication Journal. I know we'll get all into that, but but that's a great summary. Okay, so my next question I want to ask is, so you talked about the goal of being the number one school in the region, and so I wanted to bring up something you mentioned in the enrollment guide blog post, which is that for the TA report cards that came out in 2022, which are still the most recent ones that we can share, but that Basis Texas Charter Schools scored a 99 out of 100. And that's really remarkable. So, but like, what made that possible? Like, what kind of work at the campus level made that possible?
Well, from an academic perspective, I think it's all about the fact that our curriculum goes beyond the state standards. So while we pay, great attention to the TEKS and ensuring that we're covering those things that are going to be measured on the different and various state assessments, we are first and foremost an AP curriculum and program. So even starting in the primary grades, we're preparing students for those really challenging tests that they're going to take in high school. There's a lot of reasons for that. So for us, it's about going beyond the standards themselves, providing a deeper level of knowledge rather than just the surface level. We honestly don't spend a lot of time in the classroom focused on the TEKS or focused on teaching the kids about the STAR, but we want to make sure that they have the breadth and the depth of knowledge on those topics, so that when they encounter a question, whether it's online or on a paper test, whether it's the old version of the test or the new version of the test, that they understand what's being asked, they understand how it's being asked, and that they can then solve that problem regardless of maybe what the specific subject is on the test. So we make sure that we're aligned with those things. We make sure we go beyond that. And then the other really big part of it is the hard work and the subject expert teachers. And so we have people who have degrees in math. We have people who have degrees in science, people who have degrees in English who are actually teaching in our classrooms. That's who we look for. That's who we try to hire, so that they bring in their passion. They often bring a lot of real world experience to be able to provide context and a greater understanding and to share how these things are practical with our students, and so that we can really push our students to do well. Again, when I used to give campus tours, I would always say that more hard work in 6th grade is just more hard work in 7th grade, and that you're going to learn even more the next year and learn more the next, so that our curriculum spirals, and we're just constantly pushing our students to really understand, to develop that deep knowledge. And I think that's what shows up on those tests every year.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. So the curriculum is much broader and deeper and challenges the students a lot more than just what's the minimum in the TEKS. And then the teachers are coming in with their degrees in the field that they're teaching, and right, like some of them have doctorates and have work experience, and so they can bring all of themselves to the classroom and get kids really excited about that material.
Yeah, and specifically even in the primary grades, we have math teachers teaching math, professionals, math people with math degrees teaching math, people with social studies and English degrees teaching, even at those lower grade levels, and helping us really to develop our curriculum. So teachers are heavily involved in that dynamic. And then once you get to really 5th grade, our students start taking 2 sciences, physical geography, and then a broad science. When they get to middle school, every year of middle school, they're taking 3 distinct science courses. So a 6th grader is going to take a distinct physics class, a distinct chemistry class, and a distinct biology class, in addition to English, in addition to math, in addition to several different, core subjects, history, and linguistics, and some other things. And so they really are getting that breadth of knowledge, and then being able to see how they all apply together. And we start that in the primary grades, where we have connections, where those teachers are, putting together project-based learning that really brings together and shows how all the different subject areas are connected, starting in, kinder, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grades.
Yeah. Thank you. That gives good insight into like how the curriculum works. Ken, I want to give you a chance, bring you into the conversation. So like your role is operations. So right, Vice President of School Operations. So I was wondering if you could explain more about what your responsibilities are and sort of how that affects like the sort of the student and parent and teacher experience.
Sure. Dave had such great answers to all his questions. He set the bar so high, so hopefully I can match that bar that he just set. So my role within the organization and kind of philosophy that served me well the last 10 years is essentially block and tackle, so the educators can focus on 2 things: the academic outcomes of their student and the culture of the campus and their staff. So what that means by blocking and tackling. So I myself sit on the executive team board who helps serve and support the schools. Then I have a small but mighty team that works in several different buckets. So one being enrollment, the enrollment system management. We also focus on school launch, facility management, what I refer to as auxiliary services. So that's the food program, that's the janitorial program, that's clubs, that's sports, that's before school care, that's after school care. We do a little bit on the business end with capital expenditure management, and just general support of our operators on the campus is all the things that kind of myself and my team can help with. So the focus is on really on the kids and the quality education that we're providing.
Yeah, I think that something I've learned as a charter school parent myself, and from talking to a lot of different schools, is that I think parents, when they're researching, they look, they're asking, oh, what, like, how do you teach reading, or what sports do you have, what clubs do you have, like, so these kinds of questions. But having strong operations at a charter school is so important for the student experience and the parent experience. That and the more that, like, if you guys are taking care of stuff at the central office, it means that each campus is focused more on the day-to-day. There's it's always, I'm sure David can attest this, like every day there's unexpected things. You're always swerving and reacting to student needs or teacher needs. And so, like, right, the smoother the operations are, the better, like, parent communications, the more teachers feel supported. It just makes for a better experience overall. So anyway, that's my sidebar. My advice to parents is, like, when you're kicking the tires of a particular school, look for strong operations as well, beyond just academics, because strong operations will support all of those things that are the touch points for the students and the parents that you might not notice, but will make life so much better. Oh, we have a comment I want to bring on screen. So it's Amanda. She's talking about the 3 science classes. This is referring back to Dave's comment about in middle school science, that students are taking 3 science classes, and it's challenging, but it's beneficial. So actually, David, do you want to respond to a little bit more about the science classes?
Yeah, so they do intertwine. It does mean that there's extra homework. It does mean that there's more that the students have to focus on. But, they are looking at how each of those sciences relate to each other. The conversations are often broader than just the specific subject, so that they are sharing ideas from one to the other. They also, because of the math and the way that our math program is structured, they're applying that math and what's really a more advanced math into each one of those subjects as well. So then when they get to high school, they're really ready for whichever path that they want to take. And certainly we see those kids who stay with us in 9th grade being super excited about the choices they're going to make when it comes to science. So kids who discover physics in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and become really passionate about pursuing all of those different APs in physics, or the one who thinks, they want to be a doctor and do biology or the chemistry as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier too, like even in the primary program, the students have the connections classes, and so there's projects that tie together things they're learning in different subjects, but they see how things are interrelated.
Yeah, so our math in the elementary program, our math and our science are intertwined. So we're often teaching science while we're teaching math, or teaching math while we're teaching science. So it's a combined curriculum. In addition to the connections course, we also, starting in those very early grades, have an engineering block where the students get to do some really cool projects and apply what they're learning to kind of real world problems. And that's always a lot of fun too, to see what the kids are doing.
Yeah. Well, Dave, while I have you on the big screen, I meant to ask you kind of the same question. Like, so what does an associate vice president of academics do? And I think you've already demonstrated that, because, like, you have so much knowledge about the curriculum. But just can you explain, like, what your responsibilities are at Basis Ed Texas?
Well, it varies daily, and sometimes I learn I have a new responsibility, right, that I didn't know that I had the day before. But primarily what I'm focused on is ensuring that our curriculum fits into the structures and requirements for the state of Texas. So ensuring that we are meeting all those requirements, that we are performing well in the state assessments, that our students are meeting all of the graduation requirements, and that they're excelling in those things, and that, when they're getting ready to apply for colleges as seniors, that, they're getting great offers, multiple offers from universities, as well as a lot of scholarship dollars being offered to them. So just ensuring that all of that academic aspect is focused on the broader, deeper goals that we have as an organization, as well as what the state requires, and making sure that all those things fit together. And then just taking that data that we get from all of our testing, whether it's internal testing that we do in the primary and the middle school grades with what we call BLTs, or baseline testing, pre-comps and comps, which are our big midterm and final exams for our middle schoolers. And then, of course, the APs and the STAR exams, and ensuring that, we're meeting the goals that we set out for ourselves.
Yeah, thank you. That helps. Yeah, that helps explain, because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of details and a lot of regulations. So it's like, how do you make sure you're checking all those boxes, but keeping in mind the big picture, right? Is like, you want students to feel. I'm thinking about, like, the origin story about Basis, right? Is that Michael Ogle Block had lived overseas, come to the United States, and they were wondering like, wait, what gives? What like, where do you go to get an excellent education in the United States advanced curriculum? And they couldn't find it, so they made it their own, which is great. I can identify with that. Like I was having trouble finding good schools for my kids, so I was like, I will make a tool that will help families find good schools. So I appreciate their entrepreneurial nature in doing that. So you want to keep carrying out the vision of the blocks, but also check all the boxes so you can stay in business in Texas.
Yes, exactly. So that, I need to make sure that we continue with those high scores on those, whenever maybe we get a new A through F score, making sure that we're continuing to do well. And if there are things where we need to maybe adjust, based off of the new design of the STAR exams or whatever else the case may be, that we shift with the times and ensure that we're continuing to meet those objectives.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Ken, I wanted to come back to you. One thing that I've really enjoyed watching is like the growth of basis charter schools in the San Antonio area. And I know that's a big part of what you do. And so like the most recent campus to open was the Jack Lewis Jr. Campus on the far west side. So, but I was wondering, can you talk about like, what has it been like kind of guiding the growth? And I know you've helped bases expand in other areas of Texas as well, right?
Yeah, so in Texas, because we're growing rapidly, we actually grew by 24% this past year, but sticking just to San Antonio. So we actually partner with we have a national growth team, and we look at all sort of data and then analyze trends. So we look at the marketplace, where it's growing, by how much, and what segments and what age groups. We look at what our competitors are doing, what our own schools are doing, and we use all these critical data points to have that we've found successful over the course of time. We look at them to say, and we forecast out, is this accurate for this year? Is this accurate for next year? Is this accurate for 5 years out? And we take all that data, including our own waitlist numbers, and we determine whether this is the right site for us, this is the right region for us, this is the right state for us. And we've been really successful using all these different data points. So Jack Lewis Jr. is a prime example. That campus was fully enrolled, and great supporting staff. In day one, we hit the ground running based off all that work that typically happens 2 years even before the doors open. So it's all this data, a lot of teams that work collaboratively in order to make sure that we're successful when we open the doors for our kids.
So the current landscape is that there's basis primary campuses at the Medical Center and North Central, right? And those feed into Charbonneau, right? Which is where, David used to be he was the founding leader there. And then there's basis Northeast, which has a, primary and goes, eventually will go all the way up to 12th grade, right? And then Jack Lewis Jr. also has primary and eventually will go all the way up to 12th grade, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, Jack Lewis is located on our northwest side, literally right next to SeaWorld. We had some great parent engagement events at SeaWorld, by the way. Then we have North Central, obviously North Central, Charbonneau area, Med Center, and Northeast is located just right before the Live Oak area. And so that way we got kind of the top half of the San Antonio and then kind of the central covered.
Yeah. So the good news is that it shouldn't be that far a drive for any San Antonio family that's looking to access a basis school.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, good. Okay. So next question I have is, let's see. So, and David, we've already kind of previewed a little bit about, I want to ask about the curriculum at the primary level and the curriculum in the upper grades, and kind of like, what is that, the preparation that students get at the primary level? Because I think basis gets a lot of headlines for the performance of the high school students and like how they do on tests and what colleges they go to and what projects they do. But I think it's important for parents to think about what is the foundation that students can get in the primary grades before they get to do those, all those AP classes in high school.
So the really cool thing about the primary campuses is that we have a 2-teacher model in most instances, especially in K through 3. And what that means is that we have, what we call a subject expert teacher. So it's the humanities focused person. It's the math person. It might be a science person who's teaching those core areas. And then, of course, we also have, a music teacher and a drama teacher, et cetera, who support the different additional things, an engineering teacher, as I mentioned before. So those, and then we have a learning expert teacher who is kind of there to ensure that the students stay on track. They're there to work with, not necessarily support, but co-teach. and work with the subject expert teacher to ensure that the classroom is really engaging. If we need to pull students, a group of students out to do a little bit of extra work, whether they are a little bit ahead of the rest of the group or a little bit behind the rest of the group, that structure is already built into what we're doing. And so the students get a lot of support, and they move around the school building, unlike a lot of different primaries where students come into a room and kind of their whole day is focused in that one room. Our kids are moving around. They're going to their cubbies. They're learning those responsibilities, learning those skills, learning how to fill out the communications journal, even in kindergarten, where they write down what they're doing for the day. They write down what their homework is. They take home any notes from the teacher to the parents, via that communication journal. So we're teaching them those good habits, those good skills, so that then they're developing into really good learners. And that's really the foundation in the primary grades is, core knowledge, core learning skills, core student skills, that then they can take and apply, so that once they get to 4th grade and 5th grade, they lose that second teacher, and now they're more focused into traditional kinds of things, getting ready for that middle school. So they're moving around from their math class to their history class to their English class with different teachers, again, having to be responsible for getting their stuff from the cubby, making sure they've got the right books, the right notebooks, making sure that they're taking notes and doing all those things that really good students do, so that they're ready for that transition to middle school. Uh-oh.
Sorry, unmute. We have a question coming over on Facebook about, let's see, butterfly humanities math curriculums for grades 1 and 2 continue to grades 3 and above. Okay, this is going over my head, but maybe BASIS folks will know what Kim is asking about.
Yeah, so so butterfly is kind of specific. Humanities and math curriculums currently in place in grades 1 and 2. That's a moniker that we have for the curriculum design that we have, but we're constantly working on adjusting, ensuring that it fits with where our students are, adjusting it to where it fits where we want our students to be. In 3rd grade, we really are transitioning out of those blocks, whether it's a humanities block or a math and science block, into more specific skills. So 3rd grade still has a little bit of that, but we're starting now to transition more to specific subject areas. Once they get to 4th grade, it really is, distinct courses, just like a middle schooler or a high school might take. So the math continues to be something that we design and support primarily, whether we're pulling it from existing or established curriculum resources, or it's things that our teachers are developing internally, or it's a mix of both of those things. And so you will see some kind of form or fashion of butterfly 1 and 2 and 1st and 2nd grade. You'll see some of those same types of things, in 3rd grade. And then we get more into those specific subjects in 4th grade. But what I can tell you is that we're constantly revising and working on those things to ensure that they fit with our curriculum the right way.
Yeah, and I guess I'll offer kind of general advice for folks doing school search is that so like we can't cover in this half-hour episode of all the detail about the curriculum, but I know on the websites for the campuses, actually let me drop this. So on the campus websites, there's documentation about the course progression, which, as David said, it's a moving target. You guys are always revising and improving. And then the other thing is that BASIS, you guys do a great job with info nights and school tours. And those are great places for parents to, come and listen and, hear from the head of school, or understand more about the curriculum, but also ask those specific questions, to get that comfort level of finding out that BASIS is the right place for your student. Okay, well, David, thank you for offering insight about the primary curriculum. So I want to give both of you guys a chance to talk about BASIS culture, and I feel like you guys have mentioned things like Ken, you mentioned about events at SeaWorld, as sort of building the school community for Jack Lewis Jr. But are there other things you guys can share that would give folks a sense of what the BASIS culture is like? I feel like there's maybe a myth that BASIS students are kind of robotic and that they're workaholic, and it's true that they work hard, but there's also, it's a very playful, a very expressive culture, and there's so many clubs and so many ideas that come from the students, right?
Yeah, what I would say, and then Ken can maybe talk a little bit more about like the extracurriculars and some of the other things that we do, or what we offer to build community around the campuses. But what I'll say is that if you've ever been in a basis school, what you notice is it's loud. And it's the classrooms are loud because the kids are engaged. There's always hands up. There's always questions being asked. The kids are always having fun with what they're doing. It's really cool too to listen to the conversations in the hallways where kids are talking about robotics, or they're talking about, what's happening in one of their classes. They're asking each other questions about biology or science or history or whatever, and having those debates in addition to regular kid stuff that they're talking about. And so, I think that our students work really hard, and that is part of our culture. But I think they have a lot of fun doing it. And I'll just share really two quick stories. One is we had a family and the student for immigration reasons had to leave the country for a few days. And while they were out of the country, her peers in the grade set up, and this was before COVID, right? So they set up like a Zoom, FaceTime, whatever it was, little study group together. So every night from this other country where she was, they would all dial in together and do their homework together so that she didn't miss out on anything. And so I think that's, a great example. The other one that I always go back to is when I was head of school at Chavano, we had a really great soccer team, girls soccer team. And for whatever reason, their game got delayed. So the other team was running around and doing stuff, whatever. And the coach sent me a picture and said, look. And so all of our team sat down in a big circle and started doing their math homework together, right? So there was no minute that was wasted. They were all focused on getting that stuff done. And then they were ready to go play once the field was clear and they were ready to go. And I think both of those things really highlight the coolness and the fact that nerds are cool at our school.
Yeah, that's great teamwork and really showing that that independent thinking and independent behavior that students can do. So, Ken, do you have some stories to share about? Oh, and then things like extracurriculars and sports.
Sure. Yeah. So I've worked for a couple different CMOs and outfits and opened a lot of schools. One thing that's very unique about our organization, and I found out I think the summer right before we opened Jack Lewis Jr. while I was doing all the duty schedules and supporting, making sure all the bases were covered, so to speak, is kids have a deep sense of ownership. Staff have a deep sense of ownership. And there's a lot of movement happening at a very early age. So I found out that summer that kindergartners sometimes have 3 recesses. So a lot of movement. Kids aren't just sitting in class. They're up, they're active, whether they're raising their hands or they're on recess number 2. So it is really a fun place. It's, you're not going to walk into a basis school and it's, it's quiet and not engaging. It's the complete opposite. So from a culture standpoint, I thought that's something was just really neat that stood out to me. In terms of sports and clubs and after school activities, we have the, kind of the volleyballs, the basketballs, the soccers, as you mentioned, Dave. You heard from Dave. We also listen to folks and demands of students and interest of parents, whether it's a robotics club. I think we had a Minecraft club. So if there's an interest, I think we do have a really good relationship with our students and our parents to listen to that feedback. And it's to see if it's something that we can move forward with. If it's something that they really want to do, if there's a way, we'll partner and make it happen for them.
Yeah, and basis campuses are very multicultural. I think there's maybe a stereotype about San Antonio that it's either Anglo or Hispanic, but basis is the student body is the United Nations.
It is, and especially at a school like Chavano that serves the entire region. During COVID, we decided we were going to put senior congratulation graduate signs in all of our seniors' front yards. And so myself and my 2 assistant principals, it took us 3 full days because we drove to every single neighborhood in San Antonio to put those signs, and even beyond San Antonio in some cases, places I've never been, even though I've lived here off and on for the last 25 years. And so it was really cool to see just how big of a region that we serve.
Yeah. So we have a question that came up on Facebook. I'll just summarize, but asking about the foreign language options, right? So at some campuses, the primary grades are learning Mandarin, right? But then in upper grades, they have more options of languages to choose from.
Yeah, so Mandarin is one of those things we do. In middle school, we kind of focus more on linguistics, so just understanding how languages work. And then once they get to 8th grade, they make their choice. And most of our campuses offer Mandarin, French, Spanish, and Latin. Although there's a little bit of variation from campus to campus. And just like Ken mentioned, we listen to the students. And if there's a demand for a particular language, and we can find a teacher and we can sustain that program over the whole high school, years, and there's a Texas, ability to offer that, then we're happy to look at those opportunities and to maybe meet those goals. But pretty much the core foreign languages are French, Mandarin, Spanish, and Latin, with Spanish being the most popular.
Right, of course, yeah. And then we also have a question about the lunch program. So I guess like a parent is asking if they have concerns about the lunch program, who would they go to with their concerns?
Yeah, so if it's a lunch program that the network runs, like it's a vended lunch program, that would be me. So feel free to email me if you have any concerns. If you've already tried the campus and they haven't been able to resolve, or you feel it needs to be escalated to my level, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, SH Hormones, we can be the advocate for. Thank you. Okay, so thanks for sharing about stories and stuff. Okay, so I want to make sure we cover before we wrap up about enrollment and what the timeline is and like what families can do. So Ken, are you covering that? Because
that is me. Yeah, that's my name.
Okay.
So our open enrollment started November 1st and runs through December 13th. So it's critically important that you get your application in now. You go to enrollbasistx.com. That's where you can fill out an application. There's also school tour information if you want a specific school. If you want multiple schools, all the school tour information is there. Applying between open enrollment, those November 1st and December 13th, you're going to have an equal chance to get selected on the lottery. The lottery is January 10th. And like I said, we have schools located Northwest, North Central area, Med Center, Chavano, and right near Live Oak. So very important. If you are interested, sign up for a tour, take a tour, ask questions, and then submit that application between now and December 13th.
Yeah, that's really key. Yeah, enrollbasistx.com. It's a very well organized website. And then we've put a bunch of stuff on the shhardmoms.com, like to the basis enrollment guide. We have a bunch of stuff there. But yeah, info nights and school tours. Also, the basis social media accounts are really helpful for sharing like when there's particular events coming up. So then you'll know like when you can gather. But right? I guess David, from giving tours, right? Like tours are kind of an ongoing process, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of tours, and it's a really good idea to take a tour and to walk around, to listen to the school leadership, to see the students in action, to get a feel, and to kind of be able to ask your questions. So I encourage, it's fun to lead a tour, and it's fun to get unique questions and to see different families, coming in and looking and trying to make sure that it's the right fit. And that's really the only way to do it, is to actually go and see. So I strongly encourage families to do tours.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that there are basis charter schools in San Antonio, because you guys are serving your students so well. You're creating so many opportunities for them. But I also think it's important for families to know what they're getting into, and maybe not just base it on like rumors or word of mouth, but like to really see for themselves and and think about like, okay, are we committing as a family to a basis education? Because it does take some parental investment, and also as parents, like learning to back off and like let your kids advocate for themselves and build that independence. It's maybe different than what's happening in mainstream culture, but it's going to create more independent, more curious, more driven students than maybe what the mainstream education system is creating.
That's it. You've really nailed it as far as what we want and what parents should expect. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, do you want to offer any closing thoughts? I think we've covered all the questions and the goals. I mean, I feel like we barely scratched the surface. I just think basis is fascinating. I'm really grateful you guys are here. But any like closing thoughts you want kind of parents to come away from this with?
Ken?
We're both about to. My closing thoughts would be, schedule a tour if you're interested. We don't sugarcoat or hide anything. You'll see what a real life, day in the life is at basis during, recess, lunch, a classroom. But I encourage families to get out there and see what it looks like for yourself. If it's a fit for you and your kiddo, be sure to apply, especially during our open enrollment. So get the application in between now and December 13th. And our lottery will be January 10th.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, that's the call to action. We'll wrap up there. Thank you so much, Ken and David. And I really enjoyed sharing this update about basis tech.
Thank you.